The thing they don't tell you about silence is that it ain't really silent. Not out here. My pops left me this cabin, a two-room shack of splinters and regrets, tucked so deep in the West. Virginia hollers that the sun has to ask for directions. I came out here to get away from the noise, see? The constant bang and clatter of a world that's forgotten how to just sit the hell still. My heart was a jackhammer in my chest, my head a static-filled radio dial. I figured the mountains could fix me, and for a while they did. The first week was pure magic. Just the whisper of pine needles, the chatter of a creek, the distant cry of a hawk. It was a symphony of quiet. I'd chop wood until my arms burned, drink coffee on the porch, and feel the tension leak out of me like poison from a wound. But then the real silence started, the one underneath. It began with the little absences. I realized I hadn't seen a squirrel in 2 days. The crickets, those relentless fiddlers of the night, had packed up and gone. The creek's babble started to sound careful, like it was talking low so as not to be overheard. The air itself got thick, heavy, like wool stuffed in your ears. You'd get a feeling, a primal itch right between your shoulder blades, the kind your ancestors felt when a saber-tooth was sizing them up from the bushes. You'd spin around hard in your throat, and there'd be nothing there but the trees. Watching, always watching. The locals in the one-horse town 20 miles down the gravel road had a name for it. They called it the holler feeling. Old man Jepson, who ran the general store and smelled of mothballs and bitterness, told me about it when I went for supplies. "Ain't nothing to be done for it, son," he'd said, not meeting my eyes as he rang up my beans and bullets. "It's just the hills. They get to remembering. And when they remember, they get hungry." I'd laughed it off, figuring it was just backwoods superstition. I wasn't laughing anymore. It was on the 7th night of the true silence that I heard the first knock. I was reading by the light of a gas lantern, the words swimming on the page. The fire in the pot-bellied stove had died down to embers, painting the room in shifting shades of orange and black. And then it came. Not loud, not aggressive, just precise. Tap, tap, tap. 3 clean, deliberate knocks on the front door. My blood went colder than the well water. Nobody knew I was out here, nobody. The nearest neighbor was a solid 10 miles of unforgiving wilderness. My truck was the only vehicle that had been down that dirt track in weeks. I sat frozen, the book a dead weight in my hands. My mind raced through possibilities. A lost hiker? A bear, but bears don't knock, and lost hikers call out. The sound didn't come again. For 10 minutes, I didn't breathe. Just listened to the frantic thumping of my own heart. Finally, I forced myself to move. I grabbed my shotgun from its rack, the oiled steel familiar and comforting in my sweaty hands. I crept to the door, my boots whispering on the rough-hewn floorboards. I didn't open it. I leaned in, put my eye to the gap between the door and the jamb. Nothing. Just the impenetrable black of a moonless mountain night. I spent the rest of the night in the rocking chair, the shotgun across my lap jumping at every creak of the settling cabin. By the time the weak, gray dawn filtered through the grimy windows, I'd convinced myself it was a tree branch, a trick of the wind, my mind finally snapping from the isolation. But that afternoon, while checking my trap line, I found it. Behind the cabin, about 50 yards into the tree line, the earth was soft and damp, and there, pressed deep into the mud, was a single footprint. It was long and narrow, with 5 distinct bony toes, but it wasn't human. It was too elongated. The arch was a sharp, cruel curve, and it was deep. Whatever made it was heavy, and it ended in points. Not claws exactly, more like tips, as if the thing that stood there was balanced on the very ends of its toes. A cold dread, thicker than any fear I'd ever known, began to pool in my gut. The knocks came again the next night, and the night after that, always the same. Tap, 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 a polite, patient rhythm. It never tried the knob. It never spoke. It just announced its presence and waited. I stopped going to the door. I'd just sit in the dark, the shotgun pointed at the entrance, my knuckles white, sweat cooling on my skin, until the first light of day gave me permission to breathe again. The isolation, once my sanctuary, became my prison. The cabin walls felt thin as paper. The forest outside, which I'd once found so beautiful, was now a vast, menacing curtain hiding an unspeakable audience. I started talking to myself just to hear a voice. My supplies began to run low, but the thought of getting in my truck and driving down that dark, tunnel-like road filled me with a terror even greater than the knocks. On the 5th night of the knocking, I broke. I was pissing off the porch, my stream splashing against the damp leaves, when I saw them, eyes, dozens of them, hanging in the darkness between the trees at the exact edge of the property line. They weren't reflecting light like an animal's. They were generating their own, a faint, sickly greenish yellow like old pus. They were too high off the ground and they didn't blink. They just watched. I stumbled back inside, fumbling with the lock, my heart trying to beat its way out of my rib cage. The next day I tried to leave. I threw my duffel bag in the passenger seat of my pickup, turned the key. The engine cranked, groaned, and died. A dead battery. Impossible, I'd just driven it a week ago. I popped the hood. The battery terminals were caked in a strange, rust-colored, gritty substance. It looked like dried blood and dirt. When I reached out to touch it, a jolt of pure, mindless panic shot up my arm. I yanked my hand back. It wasn't a physical shock. It was a psychic one. A warning. A feeling of no, so profound, it felt like a physical blow. I was trapped. The knocks stopped after that. The silence that replaced them was 1,000 times worse. It was a waiting silence, a predatory silence. I could feel it out there, just beyond the tree line, patient as stone. I stopped sleeping. I'd catnap in the chair during the day, jumping awake at every sound. The food ran out. I was living on coffee and fear, my body wasting away, my mind starting to fray at the edges. The lines between what was real and what my exhaustion was conjuring began to blur. I saw things, shadows that slid between the trees when I looked directly at them. A tall, spindly shape standing motionless in the rain, its head cocked at an impossible angle. I'd hear whispers not in my ears, but in the back of my mind, in a language that was all clicks and dry rustles, like insect legs scraping together. It was studying me, learning my rhythms, my weaknesses. The end came on a night when the rain was coming down in sheets, hammering on the tin roof like 1,000 frantic fingers. The wind howled, a mournful sound that seemed to echo the emptiness inside me. I was huddled by the stove, wrapped in a blanket, shivering despite the heat. I was past tired. I was a ghost in my own skin. And then, the sound I'd been dreading more than the knocks changed. It started as a soft scraping, like a dry branch being dragged along the outside wall. It moved from one end of the cabin to the other. I tracked it with the shotgun, my breath caught in my throat. Then it stopped right outside the window next to the door. Slowly, so slowly, a shape rose into view. It was tall, impossibly tall and thin, its body a black cutout against the slightly less black night. The rain didn't seem to touch it. I couldn't make out any features, just that terrifying silhouette. And then it leaned forward. Its head tapped against the glass. Tap, tap, tap. The same rhythm, the same polite, patient, goddamn polite rhythm. A high, thin whine escaped my lips. This was it. It was done waiting. It was at the window. The door wouldn't be enough anymore. I raised the shotgun, my hand shaking so badly the barrel wavered like a reed in the wind. I was going to blow a hole right through that window, through that thing, and take my chances in the woods. But I didn't fire, because it pressed its face to the glass, and I saw. It wasn't a face. It was a mask of pale, stretched skin, pulled tight over a structure that was all wrong. The eyes were too far apart, mere slits that held a glimmer of that same sickly green light. It had no nose, just two small vertical holes. But the mouth! The mouth was a wide horizontal gash, and it was stretched into a smile, a gentle, knowing, utterly horrifying smile. And it spoke. Its voice wasn't a sound that traveled through the air. It was a thought, planted directly into the meat of my brain. It was the sound of roots breaking stone, of trees slowly strangling each other for a glimpse of the sun, of the immense, ancient, and utterly indifferent weight of the hills themselves. "Let us in," it whispered inside my head. "We are so lonely. We have been here for so long. Before the men with their axes and their fires, before the rivers found their beds. We remember the shape of the world before the noise. Let us in. We only wish to remember you." The fear was a physical thing now. A cold stone in my gut, a metallic taste on my tongue. This wasn't a monster that wanted to kill me. This was something worse. It was a collector. It wanted to add me to its silent, timeless collection. It wanted to know what I sounded like when I screamed. It wanted to feel the frantic, bird-like flutter of my heart before it stilled forever. It wanted my silence. "No," I croaked, the word a dry rasp. Get away! The smile on its face widened, a subtle, cruel adjustment. The gash seemed to split its head in two. There is no away, the voice rustled. There is only here, and we are here with you. It lifted a hand and placed it against the window pane. The hand was long and spidery with too many joints. The fingers ended in those same sharp points I'd seen in the footprint. As I watched, the glass under its touch began to change. It didn't crack or shatter. It fogged, but not with condensation. It fogged with a creeping gray film, like moss spreading over a still pond. The film began to bleed inward, across the glass, turning it opaque, swallowing the reflection of my own terrified face. It was coming through, not by breaking the window, but by unmaking it, by turning it into something else, something of the forest, something of them. I stumbled backward, tripping over my own feet, and fell hard on the floor. The shotgun clattered away into the darkness. I scrambled on my hands and knees, my mind screaming, my body numb with a terror so complete it was almost peaceful. This was it. This was the end. I crawled into the small bedroom and shoved the rickety dresser against the door. It was a pathetic barricade, a child's defense against a tidal wave. I curled up in the far corner, knees to my chest, and wrapped my arms over my head like that could possibly save me. I could hear it now, inside the main room. A soft shuffling sound. The sound of something moving on pointed toes across my floorboards. A dry, rustling whisper filled the air. The sound of a forest speaking with one voice. Then a new sound at the bedroom door. Not a knock. A slow, deliberate scratching, like a single sharp fingernail being dragged down the wood, from the top to the bottom. I could hear the splinters tearing. I squeezed my eyes shut. I didn't want to see. I didn't want to know. The scratching stopped. A profound silence fell. The kind of silence that exists at the bottom of the ocean, in the deep places where the light never reaches. It was the most terrifying sound I had ever heard. And then a single warm breath tickled the back of my neck. It smelled of wet earth, of decay, of centuries of fallen leaves. The voice was no longer in my head. It was right behind me, a soft, intimate murmur in my ear, its lips brushing my skin. We are in. I don't know how long I've been here. Days? Weeks? Time doesn't work right anymore. The cabin is different. The walls are soft. They breathe. A fine gray moss grows in the corners, pulsing gently. The windows look out onto a perpetual twilight woods, even at high noon. I can't leave. The door opens onto more forest, a labyrinth of identical, watching trees that lead me right back to the porch. I don't feel the hunger or the thirst anymore. I just feel quiet. They are here with me. I don't see them, not clearly. I see them in my peripheral vision, a flicker of movement, a tall shadow sliding behind a doorframe. I feel them. Sometimes when I'm sitting in the chair, I'll feel a long, cold finger trace a line down my cheek. It's not a caress. It's an assessment. They are remembering me, pulling me apart, memory by memory, sensation by sensation, to see how I work. They are learning the sound of my childhood laughter, the taste of my first kiss, the searing pain of my father's funeral. They are drinking my noise, my life, and in its place, they are filling me with their ancient, patient silence. And the worst part? The part that truly breaks what's left of me? I'm starting to like it. The world outside, with its traffic jams and its screaming headlines and its endless, meaningless chatter, seems like a bad dream. A fever. This is peace. This is the way things are meant to be, still and quiet. So I sit, and I wait. I can feel the change happening inside me too. My thoughts are getting slower, softer, like stones sinking into a deep, dark pond. My memories are becoming less like movies and more like faded photographs. Soon there will be nothing left of the man who came here. There will only be another story for the hills to remember. Another piece of the silence. Sometimes late in this eternal twilight, I hear a new sound. Faint, far away, like a memory of a sound. The crunch of tires on gravel, a car door slamming, the cheerful, oblivious voice of a hiker, or a lost couple calling out, "Hello? Is anyone there?" And a part of me, the last screaming human part, wants to rush to the door, to throw it open and scream, "Run! Get away from here!" But I don't. I just sit in my chair, I listen to the new noise, and I feel a slow, cold smile spread across my own face. I wait for the knocking to begin.